In the spirit of talking about current transits, let's keep going and let's now talk about where the sun is. The sequence of videos right now is going to be, I'm going to do the sun in Virgo today, the full moon in Pisces, either tomorrow or day after, and then, depending on where I'm feeling the focus, either the Mars in Virgo video that I've referred to before, or there are a couple of other videos that I think are important to do also. So we'll see how the sequence goes. But today's a sun in Virgo video, and then I am going to do a full moon in Pisces video tomorrow or day after. So please know that these are the two that are immediately coming. As we've mentioned, we are in an interesting and a slightly odd time right now because we have 4 planets in Virgo. And they've been in Virgo for a couple of weeks or so, certainly since the end of August, since about the 29th of August, we've had Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun in Virgo. And this is unusual. Now, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury tend to travel pretty close together, but still, they're not always just squished together like this. And with Mars in there as well, there's been a heavy focus in the sign of Virgo, whether it's Virgo energies or whether it is wherever Virgo is, or more importantly, actually, wherever it is that Virgo is in your chart. In addition, we had the new moon in Virgo at the very end of August, on August 31st. 4 planets in Virgo. I've already done videos on Mercury in Virgo and Venus on Virgo. Check those out. Okay. Both those planets leave the day after the full moon, but I'm going to talk about that more when we get to the full moon video. This is about the sun. The sun is given a tremendous amount of importance in conventional Western astrology. We're all focused on our sun signs, and this kind of does a disservice to the sun. The sun, as far as I can tell, and as far as I can see, in all the charts that I read and everything and the work that I do, really stands for who we are at a soul level. And in some ways, whatever it is that the sun does and brings up, again, because it operates from this place of higher intelligence, is out of our control, but it is predictable. Wherever the sun goes, it illuminates that part of the chart. It is so bright that every nook and cranny, every cobweb becomes visible. And the sun illuminates the same part of the chart at around the same time every year. The sun is in Aries at around the same time every year. The sun is in Virgo at around the same time every year. This year it entered Virgo August 23rd and is leaving Virgo September 23rd. Sometimes it's the 21st, sometimes it's the 22nd. Between the 21st and the 22nd, typically, sometimes the 20th, the sun enters a new sign. So if you know and understand your chart, first and foremost, the sun illuminates certain energies at certain times of the year. End of August to end of September, it is always illuminating Virgo. But wherever Virgo is in your chart, that house is illuminated every year at around this time. So it helps to know which part of your chart is going through its annual review on a subconscious level. Until you get truly attuned to the way the sun works, astrology will always remain a bit of a dissonant mystery to you. If you read sun sign horoscopes that are general, they will not read as accurate. You need to read them for your rising sign or your ascendant sign. As a result of which, a lot of people look at general or generic, as it is reading generic horoscopes is tricky because they don't cover what is actually going on in your chart. But if you just focus on your sun sign astrology, it's just a goofy way of reading charts and doing predictions. It doesn't make sense to me. So as a result of which, a lot of people who rely on, I'm going to look and see what this says for the sign of Virgo, if that's where the sun was when you were born, or Libra, whatever your sun sign is, I don't think it's going to work. Nor does the sun actively or consciously, sorry about that drill, nor does the sun actively or consciously try to drive things in such a way that we can actually be conscious of it until we get conscious to the way the sun works. So wherever the sun is, it subconsciously, at a soul level, at a true level, illuminates that part of the chart. And wherever the sun is in the same part of the chart every year is when you do your annual review of that part of the chart. So wherever Virgo is, you since August the 23rd until September the 23rd will be doing your annual subconscious review. Everything will be illuminated. All sorts of nooks and crannies will be open, and different planets as they pass through this part of the chart will be in conversation with the solar and lunar cycles. The sun enters a part of a chart. At a certain point, when the sun is in a part of the chart, the moon meets up with it. Sun takes 30 days to get through a part of the chart or a sign, give or take. The moon takes 28 days to go around. So at some point in its 30-day cycle, the moon will meet up with the sun. And typically we have a new moon when that happens, and typically we have one new moon in the sign. Sometimes, because the moon takes 28 days and the sun takes 30 days, if the sun and the moon meet up in the very first degree, they will meet up at the very last degree, and we might have 2 new moons in a sign. But that's rare. Typically we have 1 new moon in the sign. And then 2 weeks later, we have a full moon. 14 days afterwards, the moon is opposite the sun. Sun goes into a part of the chart, subconsciously illuminates what's going on. A new moon happens while the sun is in that part of the chart, and that really kicks off external activity related to that part of the chart. And 2 weeks later, we have a full moon, which creates a polarity so that, and opposing signs stand for opposing values. So if the sign of Virgo, as we've mentioned in all the videos on Virgo I've done before, stands for taking care of things, actively using our intellect or our mind to process what is going on and use that ability to manage our day-to-day reality based on the way we are cognating, thinking about, processing what is actually going on and coming up with earthly, worldly solutions to take care of business. Communication can offer, or cognition can often play planning, managing, talking, communicating, texting, writing, speaking on the phone. All of that can play a role in managing things, planning, to-do lists, project plans, all that kind of stuff. Efficiency, organization, taking care of business. A lot of times the word service is used for Virgo, and I don't think that that's the right word. I really think that it's not about, yes, sometimes you can apply the word from a perspective of who are you serving and what is serving you. But it's not service as in charity necessarily. Virgo is still a pretty self-absorbed sign. Mercury, is only relating to us from the point of view of the self. So I would still stick with the phrase taking care of things, which can also involve taking care of people, taking care of yourself, taking care of people, taking care of situations that you care deeply about. The polar opposite sign of this very engaged, controlling, managing, I'm going to make things happen, I'm going to make them better, I'm engaged with time-space reality and how I fare and how my business operates, while I'm alive and while I'm living, sign, Virgo. Pisces represents the opposing polarity of letting go and letting God, or letting go and letting spirit, of relinquishing control, of understanding that our true nature is one of transience on this earthly plane, and whatever our true nature is and whatever it is that we're grappling in a time-space reality isn't necessarily real. So it's these opposing principles. One is I am born, I am a person, I have a life, I have to manage it. I have my health, I have my body, I have other people, I have situations, I have circumstances, I have things that need to be dealt with and managed. I have work that needs to get done, I have grocery shopping that I need to do, I need to eat, I need to be perfectly right in its own place. And then you have Pisces, which seems to say, I am relinquishing control of the outcome. I am letting go and letting spirit. I'm not going to manage and make things happen. In its healthiest form, you've done the work to manage and make things happen, and at a certain point, you're going to let go and relinquish that control. You're not going to tip over into extreme Virgo. I'm going to make 15 phone calls and chase people until I get the desired outcome, which becomes Virgo on steroids. And frankly, Pisces on steroids can be, I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to manifest this plate of food that is going to appear before me, and it's not going to happen. You do have to engage in activity to get that food on the table, right? So there is a time for letting go and letting spirit, and there is a time for engaging and making things happen. On this polarity is where we're going to have a full moon in a couple of days' time. I'm going to do a separate video on that. But this idea of engaging, making things happen, managing reality is very much the spirit of the time, at least until we get to September the 23rd. And then when the sun enters the sign of Libra, another sign, another set of values, another set of characteristics, another set of governing principles related to life will be spotlit. So let me start to bring this to a close, because in many ways, Mercury in Virgo, the video I did, Venus in Virgo, the video I did, Mars in Virgo, the video I will do, are more tangible and more useful when it comes to navigating day-to-day life. Where the sun isn't necessarily useful in terms of navigating day-to-day life. You need those personal planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, to help you manage and get through whatever is being brought to you. But these planets are in a constant conversation with the sun. The sun is still more powerful than any of these because wherever the sun goes, it operates at a level where wherever it goes, that part of the chart is illuminated. There's going to be a new moon at some point there, which is going to start a 28-day cycle of external activity and manifestation in that part of the chart. There's going to be a full moon 2 weeks after the new moon that is going to emphasize polarities and bring things to a head. And then there's going to be a preparation for the next cycle. When planets like Mercury and Venus and Mars enter a sign like they did in Virgo, before the sun comes in and before there's a new moon, all of that activity is preparatory activity for the new moon. A new moon will happen at some point when the sun is in a particular sign. All the entrances that happen before that new moon are lining things up for the new moon. And any entrances that happen after a new moon or after the sun leaves a part of the chart are there to pick up on that sun's activity while that stuff is going on and then carry it on into completion, particularly when it has to do with, actually exclusively when it has to do with Mercury, Venus, and Mars. It's rare for all these planets to be in a particular sign together for such a long time. But Mercury is typically in the sign where the sun is, or the sign after, or the sign before. It doesn't go that far away from the sun. Venus does go further and can be 2 to 3 signs back or forth, depending on where it's at. And at this point in time now, all the planets are separating from the sun. The sun and Mars have already met up, and the sun is moving faster than Mars. And Mercury and Venus have already met up with the sun. They're moving faster than the sun. So these planets are starting to separate. So when it comes to the sign of Libra or Scorpio or Sagittarius, or when, it's going to be a while before these planets all of a sudden find themselves in the same place. I'm thinking about, there's one more thought that I'm trying to articulate here, and I'm going to in a second. Whenever the sun enters your rising sign, I consider that your personal new year. But whenever the sun enters a particular sign like Virgo, I believe it inaugurates, in some ways, your new year for that particular part of the chart. So if you know where Virgo is in your chart, when the sun entered here on August the 23rd, your new year began. What does that mean, a new year began? It means a new 12-month cycle has begun in that part of the chart. And a 12-month cycle, when the sun enters, it's the start of a 12-month cycle. And that first month is about the sun is here, everything there is illuminated. You do not fully process it or understand it. It's happening at a subconscious level. But once you understand, once you know this concept and you become more tuned to it, you start to work with the energy more proactively. And you don't even have to work with the energy more proactively. Wherever the sun is going to make you work on that energy proactively, and you're not even going to know it. It's just that things are going externally between the sun and the new moon, and to some extent the full moon, but with Mercury and Venus and Mars, somewhere, with Mercury and Venus especially, somewhere doing this relay with the sun and the new moon to some extent will make enough happen externally that you will be forced to contend with wherever the sun is at any particular point. And with this new moon, when the sun enters the part of the chart, your new year in that sign begins. It's a new 12-month cycle. An old 12-month cycle has ended. And when the new moon happens, really it sets up a set of events that will reach a culmination 6 months later when the full moon happens in the same sign. So a new moon happened in Virgo on August the 31st. The sun and the moon met up. 6 months after this new moon, roughly, the sun is going to be in Pisces, right? 6 months later, it will be in Pisces. We know this. 6 months after August the 23rd will be February the 23rd. The sun will enter Pisces. And when the sun is in Pisces, there's going to be a full moon in Virgo. The sun will be in Pisces, and at some point while the sun is in Pisces, the moon will be in Virgo. And so whatever activities are initiating or getting initiated now in Virgo will reach some sort of a 6-monthly culmination, some sort of an annual peak 6 months from now, while the sun is in Pisces. And then, so just as every 28 days you have a new moon that escalates to a full moon, and then you have 2 weeks of calming down or dying down until the next new moon happens. Similarly, when the sun enters the sign of Virgo, you start a new 12-month cycle in this part of the chart that escalates to a 6-month denouement, or reaching some sort of a peak or a climax at the time of the full moon, and then about 6 months of calming down and dying down until the new 12-month cycle can begin. So if you know where the sign of Virgo is in your chart, you can start to get attuned to these cycles. And that is what, at its core, there are all sorts of things that happen astrologically, but at its heart, at its core, astrology is, your lifetime is a spiral of astrological cycles, various astrological cycles that intersect in interesting ways. And different themes, different parts of life keep coming back through eclipses, new moons, full moons, solar cycles, Jupiter cycles. Saturn cycles are a little too long, but Saturn, for review and for understanding whether certain lessons have been learned in those parts of the chart, or that is how growth occurs. We're going to go back and revisit this part of the chart. We're going to go back and revisit this part of the chart, sometimes very quickly, sometimes over time, to see what it is that we have learned. Let's wrap this up. Wherever the sun goes, whatever sign it is in, whatever part of the chart it therefore enters, whatever house of the chart it enters, I should say, the sun illuminates in such a way that it allows for a subconscious review. This happens at around the same time every year. So if Virgo, for example, is in your second house of income and money that is in your name, and more importantly, your self-esteem and sense of self-worth, and your relationship to your gifts and how it is that you generate income, the sun will go in and in its own way illuminate all this. You may find that you are piecing together something about your self-confidence and your ability to produce something, for example. It sometimes means that you can get checks during that time, or if you work in a corporation, that's when your pay raises happen, or this is why this becomes so interesting to know your chart and know where these signs and what these cycles look like. Wherever the sun goes, it illuminates that part of the chart at around the same time every year. It typically enters that part of the chart between the 21st, 20th, and the 23rd of the same month every year. It does so with Virgo between the 20th and 23rd of August, and it's there till the 20th or 23rd of September. This year, I'm using 23rd August to 23rd September. That can change based on where you are on this planet by a day or so. And it illuminates all the nooks and crannies so that on a soul level, you are learning and evaluating what is working, what is not working, what changes you want to make, what sort of goals you want to take on, and there are things that start to happen. The things that happen when the new moon happens in this part of the chart, as it did on 31st of August this year, it really then it starts an external manifestation. And the planets, Mercury and Venus, whether they're coming in before the sun or after the sun, take on different aspects of activity related to this annual review. Sometimes Mars is also involved, as it is currently, because it is traveling close to the sun right now. So, interestingly, for the sign of Virgo, Mars and the sun met up in the sign of Virgo. So it's also very possible that a 2-year cycle has been set up. Also, this Virgo cycle might be interesting and important. You may, in terms of your action and activities and drive, pay attention to this. Actually, this is a really interesting point, and I'll cover this in the Mars and Virgo video too. This review that the sun has just done might be more important than other reviews, because wherever it is right now, it has kick-started a 2-year Mars cycle, because Mars takes 2 years to go around the sun and meet up with this, 2 years to go around the Earth in the way that we see it, and meet up with the sun again. So this Mars is going to meet up with the sun in 2 years' time. So wherever Virgo is in your chart, there's a 2-year cycle that has also started related to activity and drive and action. We will cover this more in the Mars and Virgo video. So wherever the sun is, subconsciously illuminated, annual review, a new moon happens and kickstarts things. A full moon happens during that lunar cycle to bring things to some sort of a culmination. But as far as the sun is concerned, the sun has started a 12-month cycle in that part of the chart that is going to reach some sort of a peak or a culmination around the full moon that will happen 6 months later. And then, of course, 6 months after that, 12 months after the sun has moved into the sign of Virgo, Virgo 2020 is when a new cycle will begin in this part of the chart. Okay? So when it comes to the sign of Virgo, this means two things. Number one, we're in that part of the year when Virgoic activities are going to be prevalent. On a subconscious level especially, we will feel compelled to organize our lives, organize things, take care of things. We might find ourselves busy. Virgo, I consider one of the two busiest signs, the other being Gemini. Mercury ruled signs. So Virgo, I consider, one of the busiest signs in the zodiac. So being busy, being active, taking care of stuff, having more on your plate than you can do, requiring management, taking care of things, being actively engaged with shaping our realities, being forced to take charge of things. That is very much the theme of the year right now, and that theme is going to continue till September the 23rd. The other more interesting and important thing for each of you to consider when it comes to your own charts is, where's Virgo in my chart, and to understand the things that I have brought up here. Every year at the same time, between August the 20th or so, or 22nd or so, and September 22nd, this part of the chart is illuminated, and you do your subconscious review, and a 12-month cycle has started in this part of the chart. Okay, I will leave it at that. We've already covered Mercury in Virgo. We've already covered Venus in Virgo. We've just done the Sun in Virgo. Full moon video tomorrow, and then we'll talk about Mars and Virgo. And the day after the full moon, both Mercury and Venus move out of Virgo and into Libra, so there are more videos on that are to come. I hope I've given you stuff to think about and ponder here. With these videos, I can do the generic sign interpretations, but clearly I can't do sort of your chart, your house interpretation. So you can get free versions of your charts online. I create a version of people's charts. You will need to know your birth time in PowerPoint of Word format that tells you in plain English what signs are in what houses, so you can use those to follow along my videos. If you found this video useful or helpful, feel free to share it, like it, comment on it if you feel so inclined. There's a bell icon in YouTube next to the subscribe button, and if you click on that, you'll be notified when I do new videos. My email address is going to be in the description section once I'm done processing the video, so you can use that to reach out to me if you have questions about rates, either about the chart or readings, personal readings, etc., and we can take things from there. Okay, I'm going to leave it here for now. I didn't think I would be talking for about 24 minutes regarding the sun, and I know I've repeated myself at least 2 or 3 times, but I don't regret that, because those 2 or 3 principles with the sun coming into a part of the chart, I really I really find that repetition is helpful in just letting the mind process whatever it is that is being heard. So I do hope, I really hope that actually in some ways the sun entering a part of the sun entering a part of your chart will be your constant companion and an enormously grounding principle when understanding how the new moons work and how Mercury and Venus are close to it and carry on certain activities. It will give you a joy in understanding astrology that very few other things will. Because at around the same time every year, the same part of your chart is illuminated. And you can actually think back. I can think back to different times when the sun is in Virgo, how the same themes come up for evaluation. And it just gives everything so much more meaning. So I do hope that you stick with this video, try to understand whatever it is that I'm saying in this. If you are lucky enough to know your birth time, see if you can get a copy of your chart and start to follow along with wherever the sun enters the same part of the chart every year and see how those themes are illuminated in different ways, but the same themes are illuminated every year at the same time. Every year at the same time, you do a subconscious review of wherever the sign of Virgo is in your chart. And I would love it if more and more people started to align with this principle, because I think that it would help us all enormously navigate our lives and start to get an understanding of what themes are emphasized at what times of the year, whether we like it or not. Okay, that is where I'm going to leave it. More tomorrow on the full moon in Pisces. Thanks.